I am Laura Dixon, and you are listening to the Naturally Thin for Life podcast, episode number 84, What Cravings Really Are. Welcome to the Naturally Thin for Life podcast. I'm going to teach you how to get out of your diet brain so that you too can be naturally thin for life. No counting, restricting, or obsessing. I am going to take the mystery out of it for you so that you can become naturally thin starting today. Are you ready? Let's do this. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the podcast. I have been thinking a lot about cravings and what they really are, and why so many of you struggle with understanding cravings and how to lessen them when those cravings don't serve you. I've noticed, especially while being pregnant, that I have cravings, but how my brain interprets them during this pregnancy is so much different than how my brain interpreted them in my first pregnancy. I put on less weight with each pregnancy. I put on about 50 pounds with my son, Ben, and about 40 pounds with Gemma, my second. And this pregnancy, I'll probably put on around 30 pounds or so. Now, I'm not putting on less weight because I'm forcing myself to not eat, but really because I'm listening to my body in a whole new way each time I get pregnant. And the funny thing, I just find this to be ironic, is between the first and second pregnancies, even though I put on 10 more pounds with my son, Ben, then Gemma, Ben, who I put on 50 pounds with, was just under 9 pounds when he was born. And then Gemma, who I put on 40 pounds with, was just under 10 pounds. So we will see what this baby weighs. Slight note to the universe, to God, maybe not an 11-pound baby would be appreciated, but any healthy baby I will take. Our midwife was actually telling us lately that she just delivered a 13-pound baby. I was like, what? God, please no. I'll pass on the 13 pounds. I'll take a healthy baby, but not 13 pounds. But anyways, today, I want to help you think about your cravings in a new light so that they don't feel like a mystery and like they're just something that happened to you. And therefore, you have no control over them. Because remember, if your brain thinks something is happening to you, you are at the effect of something, then you're sort of screwed because you're at the mercy of that quote unquote thing happening to you. In this example, a craving. So before we get started talking more about cravings, and I'm going to teach you a new way to think about cravings so that you can really understand what they are for you and your body so that you can lessen the intensity of them and really understand how to work through them. And before we do that, as always, make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you're always getting the latest episodes. And if you're loving the podcast, please take a minute to leave a review and write a review. There is nothing I want more than for all women, all people really, but I especially think a lot about women because I'm a woman. I want all of us to be free from this weight loss insanity and experience the freedom of being naturally thin. And when you take a minute to write a review and leave a review, that helps other women find the podcast who don't even know that it exists yet. So thank you for doing that. Now back to cravings. Ask yourself this question before I dive into my thought process around cravings. What do you think a craving is? Really, what do you honestly think a craving is? How would you describe it to someone who had never experienced a craving before? I looked up, the Merriam-Webster dictionary says this is what a craving is. A craving is an intense, urgent, or abnormal desire or longing. And then it says a craving for chocolate or a craving for new experiences. So fascinating to me that in the dictionary's definition, it even talks about a craving for chocolate, right? But this is how we all collectively think about cravings as intense, urgent, and abnormal desires, a longing. Most of you probably think cravings happen to you. Welcome to the club. I used to think that for most of my life. I used to talk about myself like certain cravings were a part of my identity. Like, hi, my name is Laura. I have red hair. I'm 5'11". I crave chocolate and red wine. Literally, I used to think that my cravings for chocolate, my cravings for red wine, my cravings for peanut M&Ms, my craving for Reese's peanut butter cups, my craving for ice cream, those are just intrinsic inside of me. They just were a part of who I was. Literally. We think that cravings are something that happen to us and therefore are out of our control. And whenever your brain thinks that something is out of its control, then there's no other option than to either willpower through it or give in. And this makes so much sense when we are dieting or when you read about quick tips and tricks that people will tell you. Well, you have to distract yourself from the craving. So quick, brush your teeth, or quick, go for a walk, or have a cup of tea, or go to bed early. Because if the craving is out of your control and it happens to you, then of course you would have to try to escape it quick to prevent yourself from giving into it. But when you try those things, I call them substitute distractions, like brushing your teeth, going for a walk, having a cup of tea, going to bed early, none of which are bad at all, right? We all are going to do those things probably anyways, but you're trying to run away from a craving. Those substitute distractions might work temporarily, but usually the craving grows. It's like a shadow that just keeps following you around. You can't escape it. And then the biggest downfall is that you solidify the belief that cravings are out of your control when you tell yourself you have to quick run away from it. And then you believe more and more that you have to find a way to escape them. It's exhausting. So maybe you haven't been able to tell yet, but I hate this definition of a craving. It sounds like a monster in a closet, like something that we have to fear that's totally out of our control. Instead, I want you to consider this. I want you to think about cravings as two types of cravings. There's a body craving and a brain craving. I will hear people say, oh, I just craved pizza so badly last night. And then that same person might say a couple days later, oh, I was just craving a salad today. So we collectively in our society hear and talk about cravings for dieting, quote unquote, healthy foods and dieting, quote unquote, unhealthy foods, like what we would traditionally consider, quote unquote, healthy and unhealthy. And I say quote unquote because I don't ever think about food as like, well, this is healthy and this is unhealthy. But we talk about cravings for both traditionally healthy and traditionally unhealthy foods. So it makes sense that no one really understands cravings because we're like, what? I can crave a salad one day and then I totally crave a bunch of pizza and ice cream the next day. What's happening? I think about a body craving as your body's desire for a particular food, and a brain craving is your brain's desire for a particular food. Sometimes they may be the same, and sometimes they may be different. You want to know when you have a desire for a food, is it a body or a brain craving? For example, if you are quote unquote craving ice cream, that is never, unless maybe you're sick or something, but that's pretty much never going to be a body craving. Your body will never crave food that prevents it from operating at its optimal level. And now, just because ice cream is what I would call a brain craving doesn't mean you never have it. So make sure you listen all the way to the end, and I'm going to walk you through how to think about brain cravings and work through them in a way that it doesn't mean you can never eat the food that your brain is craving, even though your body's like, could probably do without the ice cream. So I'm going to come back and talk you through that in a minute. Now, on the other hand, let's say you're not craving ice cream, but you're having a quote unquote craving for raspberries. Probably a body craving. Especially think if you wake up and you're a little hungry, maybe you had a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, you had some water, and then a couple hours later, you're like, oh, I'm really just craving raspberries. And maybe you're a little dehydrated. Like, it makes sense. Your body would be asking for fruit, especially on an empty stomach. Fruit is one of those things your body loves on an empty stomach because of how it digests. So you might think like, oh, that's a body craving. And you'll notice with a body craving, there's no battle. A body craving almost always, oftentimes allows your brain to be like, yeah, we want that. Brain craving too. Right? But I want you to think about them slightly differently, the body craving and the brain craving. What you want to notice with the cravings is that it isn't about the particular food. So in my raspberry example, just because your body craves raspberries one morning doesn't mean your body wants raspberries all of the time. It just wanted them in that moment. right? So the food that serves you is going to change. You want to know, where is that desire? And especially if you feel like you're having a craving, where does that quote unquote craving come from? Is it my body's desire for food or my brain's desire for food? One of the best ways to know, is it a body craving or a brain craving, is to ask yourself this: what does myself tomorrow morning think about this craving if I follow through with the craving? Me, tomorrow morning, that future version of me in a little bit of time, she's always going to be thankful I honored my body cravings, which means eating when I'm hungry, stopping when I'm satisfied, eating food that serves me, that serves my body. Me tomorrow morning will not usually be so thankful I honored a brain craving. Your body craves food for a particular reason. Your body is so intelligent that when you listen to it, it will tell you what it wants to eat. This is why in the Naturally Thin for Life program, and I talk a little bit about this in the episode called The Buckets, I never tell my clients to make decisions around food when you're thinking about making decisions around food in advance of eating, to make really stringent, strict decisions that never allows them to have options. Because the food that serves you is plentiful and your body wants it to be varied. So even for me, I may know, okay, when I'm at a hunger level of a 7, and I'm going to eat maybe one of 3 things. Now, all of those 1 to 3 things, those options, are food that serves me, but I listen to my body in that moment to decide which of the 3 things I'm going to eat. Listening to what I would call my body craving. Now, that also isn't always true. There are other times that I know in advance what I'm going to eat, what I planned out maybe for our evening meal, or when I used to go into the office, whatever I brought that day. But I would still be open to listening to my body. So there were days that I brought a particular food into the office, let's say leftovers from the night before. And it was food that serves me in a broad capacity. It served me the night before, but I had no desire for it in that moment. Now here's the key. I didn't say, oh, my brain has a craving for a cheeseburger and fries, so I'm going to eat that instead, and then try to convince myself I'm just listening to what my body wants. No, my body never wants the cheeseburger and the french fries. Instead, I would listen to my body's craving, which was maybe saying, hey, I don't really want what you brought for lunch, so we could eat it, and sometimes I just would. Or I would go out and maybe get a wrap or a salad or something that still served my body. I didn't all of a sudden say, oh, well, now I have a brain craving and I have to answer it. So you really want to know the difference. Am I having a body craving or am I having a brain craving? And the reason your body craves food is because your body wants to operate at its optimal level. That is how it's designed. It wants to feel light and airy and energized and comfortable. And the only reason you have a brain craving that's different than your body craving is because your brain wants the excitement, the entertainment, and the distraction of the food for a temporary fleeting moment. A body craving isn't fleeting. It serves you while you eat, and you feel good about it after you eat. A brain craving is fleeting. Your brain is trying to tell you that it thinks the food that it's telling you that it craves will solve something. A brain craving always thinks food will solve a problem. And what your mind thinks, the brain craving, whatever your brain is craving, whatever that particular food is, what it always thinks it will solve will always, always come back to an emotion. 100% of the time. I don't know if I can emphasize this enough. Your brain craving, when it's not a body craving, will always be searching for a distraction from an emotion. Whether that's stress, anxiety, dread, overwhelm, excitement even, confusion, boredom, it will always come back to thinking the food will solve an emotion. The only thing your brain ever wants a distraction from is a feeling. I use feeling and emotion interchangeably. If you think your brain It's like, no, but I want a distraction from the spinning in my mind or the ruminating that's happening or the overthinking and the overanalyzing. All of that overthinking and spinning comes from an emotion like anxiety, let's say, or stress or overwhelm or restlessness. The spinning and constant thinking in your brain, especially when you want to calm it down and relax, that's the symptom, that's the behavior that comes from an emotion first. So a brain craving is your brain always searching for a distraction from an emotion. A body craving is the desire for food that serves your body, that your future self will be thankful you answered. A brain craving is your mind searching for a distraction that does not serve your body. Your future self will not be thankful you answered that craving. Another way you can ask yourself, is this a brain craving or a body craving? Is take your brain to an extreme example. Let's say you're craving ice cream. We'll stick with that example, and I'm going to walk you through in a minute how I recently have had many cravings for ice cream and how I think about them and how sometimes I will eat the ice cream and sometimes I don't, but how to get to that place. But let's go through this extreme example first. You can take your mind to an extreme example when you're having a craving. If you ask your future self what she would think about answering that craving, that's one way. But another way is to take your brain to, let's say you're having this craving for ice cream. And then say to yourself, okay, what would happen if I would get $1 million if I didn't eat this ice cream? Your brain would literally flip on a switch and be like, hell yeah, all in, done, no ice cream, right? The strong desire for the ice cream would be gone. It would disappear. Versus a body craving. So let's say you're hungry and your body is telling you it really wants raspberries again. I'll use the example before and same thing. If you don't eat the raspberries, you get $1 million. Again, you would say, okay, I can handle that. No raspberries, done, right? I'll take the $1 million. But your body would have a lingering, but I wanted them. It's fine, but your body still kind of has a different longing for those raspberries that leaves this lingering effect. That, I really wanted them, but no problem, I'll totally take the $1 million, is your body recognizing that your body really does want the raspberries. Versus the brain craving. Because your brain craving only happens when your brain wants a distraction. That desire for the distraction disappears in an instant with the $1 million example, because now you're distracted with the $1 million. So you have a new thing to focus on. And your brain's desire for the entertainment factor from the ice cream has been replaced with the $1 million. That's why there's no longer a lingering desire for the ice cream. But there is kind of a lingering longing for the raspberries for that body craving, right? You're still probably not going to eat them and have the $1 million, but there's no lingering effect with the brain craving, and there is with the body craving. The last and probably most telling way that it will give you instant feedback to know if you're having a body or a brain craving is how does that craving feel in your body? A body craving is calm. A brain craving has urgency. You know when you get that bowl of snacks and you can't even wait to eat them until you sit down, that you eat half of the bowl before you even reach the couch? That urgency is a brain craving. Now, just because you have what I call a brain craving doesn't mean you never answer it. I've been going through something in my life recently where I have been experiencing the emotion of devastation, and now it's kind of turned into what I call wompy. Wompy, to me, I really do think wompy is an emotion. I do describe it about myself when I'm experiencing that. I'll be like, I'm feeling wompy. To me, wompy is a mixture of apathetic, disappointed, sluggish, kind of like Eeyore. I just call it wompy. So I've been feeling wompy, and I notice my brain saying, let's eat ice cream. That might help. That is a brain craving. My brain wants a distraction from the wompiness. And here's how you can think about these. So this has been happening to me for the last several nights where I feel wompy and my brain says, let's eat ice cream. So here's what you want to do. You want to first recognize it is a brain craving. I know my body does not want ice cream. Once you recognize it is a brain craving, then ask yourself, what is my brain trying to distract me from? What emotion? So then I say to myself, okay, brain, you think ice cream is going to make the wompiness go away? Like, I hear you. I understand that's your thought process right now. It isn't. I know that to be so true. I have a lot of experience trying to distract myself from emotions with food. It never seems to work. So I literally tell myself, it's okay to feel wompy. I don't need to escape this. Tonight, I'm just going to feel wompy and it's okay. Yes, my emotions come from thoughts in my brain, so I could change my thoughts, but sometimes that just isn't going to happen. I was just like, nope, we're just going to feel wompy tonight and it's okay. I feel the wompiness in my body and I make peace with that feeling first. I recognize it's a brain craving. I ask myself, what is this brain craving? What does it think it will get from eating the food? What emotion do I think I'm going to distract myself from? Right? And then I recognize the wompiness. I remind myself the food isn't going to make the wompiness go away. And I sort of embrace the wompiness. I ask myself, like, where do I feel this in my body? I make peace with that feeling first. And most of the time, the desire for whatever my brain is craving subsides. So that desire for the ice cream is kind of like, nah, actually, don't really want it. Because it's okay that the wompiness is here. My brain isn't saying, we got to get out of this. We got to get out of this. Maybe ice cream will help. I'm just like, nope, just feeling wompy and it's okay. And on occasion, I may still decide to eat a little bit of ice cream, knowing full well it's a brain craving and knowing it isn't going to make the wompiness go away. Then when I go to eat it, I am not rushed and feeling urgent or feeling like I have to eat the ice cream. And then when I do eat it and the wompiness is still there, my brain isn't surprised that the food didn't solve the wompiness. So it isn't telling me to go get more because I went through that process, which now my brain does quite quickly just on its own because I've practiced this of reminding myself, brain craving, think it's going to solve wompiness, not going to solve the wompiness, let's feel the wompiness. Okay. Probably don't want the ice cream anymore. And if I do, I know I'm going to eat it and it's not going to make the wompiness go away. So then it's so easy to actually enjoy the ice cream even more because I don't think it's going to solve this problem. I haven't told my brain that it needs to solve this problem. So then when it inevitably doesn't solve the problem, I'm not surprised reaching for more. You will probably always have some brain cravings. A couple weeks ago, at my son's birthday, I ate a cupcake. That was a brain craving, 100%, right? But I knew it wasn't going to solve anything. And I just enjoyed it and I moved on and there was a calmness to it, but only when you first recognize what that craving is to begin with. I know my own brain is creating all of my brain cravings and that I am in control of whether or not I answer any craving, even a body craving. I'm in control of whether or not I answer them. And I want to answer my body cravings. I want to eat when I'm hungry, eat food that serves me, and stop when I'm satisfied. And I want to understand my brain cravings. And I don't want to feel like I'm at the effect of them. So when you go through that process I just described, that is how you get there. If you need help with this, come join the Naturally Thin for Life program, where you learn all of the tools that you need to turn down the volume on your brain cravings so that you aren't fighting with yourself, so that what you're left with most of the time are body cravings. That is how losing weight becomes easy and permanent. I was just talking with a client and she said she went out for dinner, had a few bites of dessert, and then it just sat there for a half an hour, like half eaten. And she said she had no desire to keep eating it. There was no battle. She wasn't thinking about it. She was just sitting there hanging out with her husband. That is how you know your body cravings are stronger than any of your brain cravings. That is how you know that you feel in control of your brain cravings. That is how you know you're the one creating your brain cravings and you know how to be with them in a calm, peaceful way. So listen to the outro for the link to learn how to join me in Naturally Thin for Life, and I cannot wait to see you there. I hope you all have an amazing day, and I will talk with you all next week. Friend, if you are loving what you are learning here on the podcast, you have to come check out my Naturally Thin for Life program. It is my on-demand lifetime access program where I teach you brand new concepts not taught here on the podcast. And I will walk you through exactly how to implement all of the tools I teach you here so that they become just a part of you. You will learn exactly how to understand your specific brain and your specific body so that you become naturally thin for the rest of your life and you no longer struggle with your weight. Inside of the Naturally Thin for Life program, you can also receive live help so that you consistently make progress and reach your goal. I will teach you how to accelerate your naturally thin journey in a sustainable way so that the change becomes permanent. The best part is that it's risk-free. You either love it or I will give you your money back. If you are ready to finally be naturally thin for life, join us at lauradixoncoaching.com/work with me. That's LAURADIXON coaching.com and click on the Work With Me tab. I cannot wait to see you there.